Hi, it's me, Scott. I'm here with Lucas and Tony and Matthew, and it's Taking Credit For. It's the whole team. We're finally back after our shitty Rampage review where it was just me and Lucas, and we were very confused.
Hi, it's me, Tony, and I don't feel very good.
Damn it, that was my joke! You piece of garbage. Are you serious? So salty to begin with. Alright, we're here to talk about Marvel's Avengers, The Infinity War, singular. Because we all watched the movie and we all have things to say about it. And I would like to open it the way that we have been recently doing that, where I would like to ask each of you to say one word that you think describes this film accurately as per your personal viewing of the film. Matthew.
I was worried you were going to start with me.
Yeah, well, you looked worried, so I was like, it's him.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
He can smell weakness.
Mm-hmm. You're going to have to come back to me. I actually do need
Lucas!
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, jeez.
Right?
Grand. Okay, alright. That's good. That's good. Tony.
Episodic.
Ooh. Also very good. I would like to say Thad.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in this one.
Surprising.
Also accurate.
Very good, yeah. Alright, so I think it would make sense for us to open by talking about sort of general impressions, because if somebody wants to listen to the first 15 minutes of our review and then turn it off, there's no spoilers.
Yeah, of course.
Alright, so, anybody got some hot takes on just like their whole general impression of the film?
Best Avengers movie.
Yeah! Best Avengers movie.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't, but it's really good.
So what, you like the original Avengers more than that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fair.
I felt like it was... Okay, I like the original Avengers because you don't need the additional viewing to understand what it is going into it. It managed to tie everything together without really needing you to see Iron Man and Thor and Cap and Hulk and all of that.
Sure.
It worked. This movie, that is not true for. That's why I think it's episodic. It is the season finale to the first season of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was the last 10 years of films. And if you walk into this movie with no knowledge of those films, you're not going to have a good time.
True.
I agree entirely.
But, as far as the first movie is concerned, it's not fair to rule out the fact that the movie, the first Avengers, does open on a cold open of Steve Rogers punching a punching bag and Nick Fury approaching him.
Is that where it opened?
No, that was like the second scene. But it doesn't give any leeway to that. There is still an element of you have to kind of understand what you're getting into.
No, like, that is true. I feel like more so, like, if you brought your friend who was, like, tangentially aware that this is a thing to the Avengers, and you watched it together, they would still enjoy themselves, whereas this one, they might be, like, have a general sadness because of the tone of the movie, but I don't feel like they would be able to follow the plot at all.
No, totally. And I absolutely agree. I'm not disagreeing at all. But the first Avengers movie does also require a little bit of extracurricular reading, as it were.
I also feel like that movie was the last good thing Joss Whedon ever did.
That's a true thing, though. That's just a true thing.
Oh, yeah. Also, as much as I hear what Scott's saying, I actually do ultimately agree with Tony. I think for sure this movie is only great in my opinion because I've seen all the pieces leading up to it.
Yeah.
My general impression of this movie is what shouldn't have worked is all of these vast interweaving stories should not have cohesively come together to form this beautiful tapestry that Marvel's been saying they're going to do for upwards of a decade.
No, literally a decade.
A decade? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Iron Man was 2009.
The movie came out...
just
No,
short
2008. 2008.
No, then a decade.
No, the movie came out 5 days before the 10-year anniversary of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we'll call it a decade.
Yeah.
So yeah, my just general broad strokes, this movie shouldn't be... The strong points of this movie shouldn't be the strong points of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel movies have been classically good with their spectacle, their big explosions, their awesome fights between two characters, and that was all good, don't get me wrong. But what really worked was the small moments with characters, the lead-ups and the build-ups to the story points. I was very impressed in ways I didn't expect to be impressed.
The fact that there were any small moments with characters was astounding. My biggest takeaway from this movie is, holy shit, that was so much better paced than it had any right to be.
And
100%.
there were, I believe, based on the last article I read before the movie came out, 68 named characters in the film. So, like, that's a staggering number.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
But then you've got this whole element of the film where it's paced, and I say this in the most positive lights, but it's paced at a breakneck speed because it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the fact that the speed of the film is this breakneck nature, it delivers every single narrative beat that it has to. And that is really cool.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like the movie would have suffered if it had slowed down at any point, because there were so many characters that required so much screen time and so many notes that needed to be hit.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got this movie, this like Matt said, this tapestry that is just absolutely astounding to look at from a grand scale, because the pacing and every sort of element leading into it, every thread that led to the tapestry of the actual film that we were watching, was so well established.
I was going to say, I agree. I have had similar feelings about Thor Ragnarok, actually.
Good-ass movie.
It was a very good movie, but the one problem I had with Thor Ragnarok was that there was no small, quiet moment at any point. Like, is it okay if I give a spoiler for a movie we're not talking about?
Before you go into it, I would argue that the one small moment would be when Thor is initially divulging his, like, recent history to Hulk after they meet each other.
Yeah.
Where he's like, well, I lost my hammer.
Yeah, that was the thing.
That was fresh. Mm-hmm. Like, that still hurts. Like, that's
to Korg, but yes.
Well, okay, so...
Was it?
But that's still fresh, yeah.
I thought it was to Hulk.
Because he says, oh, he's something in a very special relationship with that hammer.
No, the it's still fresh
Korg said
is
that to him, and then he was catching up Bruce Banner.
with Hulk. He says,
okay,
it's such a great thing to see you again. I
Yeah.
have to catch you up on so many
When
things.
they were in the arena.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, and you see, that was a moment that I wanted in Ragnarok that we didn't really get. We got that in Infinity War.
Like a bunch of times.
So not only did we have that breakneck pace, but we had those quiet moments while keeping up that pace.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't, like, it was literally like they are having those quiet moments while they are on their way to do the next thing, and somehow that worked.
And it shouldn't have.
It should not have worked. This should have been Justice League again.
There's no universe in which this movie exists outside of this actual motion picture, and it worked.
All right, what are your impressions, or like the broad strokes?
Oh yeah,
We're
so I really liked how every character got roughly the same amount of screen time. It didn't feel like, Iron Man 4 or Captain America 3, 4.
Yeah, it depends how you slice it.
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't feel like that. It just felt like a very good, cohesive movie.
Yeah. It felt like elements of Captain America 4, Iron Man 4, Guardians 3. It just like felt like all of these bits and pieces of movies that we're like still sitting down here hoping to see.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got to see it all happen in this one like wildly cohesive, like interesting and intermelding narrative.
We got like a small sample of all the new sequels, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's the thing. Basically, every criticism I've seen of this movie has either been like, this doesn't really feel like its own thing. It feels like it's a trailer for every movie that's come from the past, and it's like, no, it's the season finale. That's what is its stated purpose, is to tie all of these things together. I don't really feel like at that point, if that is your criticism, then this just isn't the movie for you.
Yeah, it's not meant to stand alone.
It kind of feels like what they wanted us to think The Defenders was going to be, except that this movie was baller as fuck.
I like The Defenders, and I don't know if they did.
Defenders was really good,
but Defenders has nothing on this.
Exactly,
even as a fan,
and like it played in that same role that Defenders was saying it was going to, but it's just like bigger scale, grandiose whole thing. Like you've got these characters that we've learned to love over the past literal decade. It's been 10 years. I love Tony Stark. I like seeing him do stuff.
See, I'd be really interested to see what the actual development of the story for this movie was. How far in the development of that decade of movies was this, like, reasonably firmly the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned at one point, Tony, that it was you could tell this wasn't Whedon's Thanos.
Yeah, this is not Whedon's Thanos. This is a different Thanos.
Yeah, so it wasn't their plan from Phase 1 of Marvel. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know when the development...
Back before they had phases.
Yeah, and that was getting me thinking, because you mentioning Defenders got me thinking, because what we ended up getting for Defenders is, like, stated to be not what the original concept was. Mm-hmm. The original concept, Mephisto was going to be the bad guy in the Defenders.
And then they realized that...
tying all of that together would be a fucking mess.
Also, Fox still owned the right to Mephistopheles, so they were like, well...
That's a different character.
But Mephistopheles was the character that they were trying to tie in, and they don't have the rights to him, so they were like...
hand!
Yeah.
I mean, they might now, but with Disney's streaming service, that throws a whole new... wrench in there, but that's not what this podcast is about.
Not even one time, yeah.
So that's pretty much the end of our general impressions, I think. We're going to move into spoiler territory at this point, so if you're hoping to listen to our reviews and not have anything spoiled, now's the time to stop listening.
Because there's no end annotation where it's like, click to this point to avoid spoilers. We're spoiling from this point forward.
Yes.
This is your verbal warning.
Deal with it.
And I can't believe they killed Spider-Man. Mostly because it's my go-to fake spoiler, and I haven't been able to say it, and people who know it's my go-to fake spoiler are like, haha, did they kill Spider-Man? And I had a session like, ha ha ha, and then just like fade away into the shadows.
There's been literally years of my relationship with Matthew, where we each have gone and seen movies the other has been interested in, like John Wick 2, or frickin' The Shape of Water, or whatever, where the other person asks you, what did you think of the movie? And you say, it was pretty good. I can't believe they killed Spider-Man. Except this is the first time where it actually happened.
Yeah, it's usually just such a funny thing to say, because Spider-Man's not even in the movie. And people get so, they react so strongly towards spoilers that you're like, Spider-Man dies. And like, oh, Matt, I can't believe you would like think about it. Shape of Water.
I'm talking about The Last Jedi.
Anyway, so I'm mad about that. I'm not sure if that came across.
It was very upsetting. At the end of the movie, I was like, I should text Matthew and say, I can't believe they killed...
Do we want to have a kill list?
Let's get to the... We'll get around to that.
What's the population of the universe? Because half of that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, actually, that's a good thing. We did the thing where each of us sat down and said, did I get killed by Thanos?
The website is didthanOskill.me.
Yes.
And Scott survived, and Lucas survived.
Matt also survived.
And Matthew survived, and Tony got fucking murdered.
Yeah, so these three are going to be your Avengers going forward. They're going to have to find some way to save the universe, I guess.
Assign roles, please.
I've done that. Tony Stark, Vision, the Hulk.
That was Scott, Matthew, and Lucas, respectively.
However, Vision is out. So I don't mind being the Vision.
That is fine, but like I just...
No, great. Vision's great.
There you go.
I mean, I would have maybe given you a Guardian, but like...
Most of the Guardians are gone as well.
And you're not that raccoon.
It's true.
Alright, so, big whole spoiler times.
Similar vein to that, I can't believe they killed Loki.
Right off the bat, too.
Like in the first 3 minutes, Loki dead.
Taken aback.
And that was kind of... I like that because it was actually kind of prison rules as far as screenwriting goes. Because you walk in and you take out the baddest, meanest guy in the prison.
Mm-hmm. You set a precedent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they took Loki out to kind of just say Thanos is the biggest, baddest guy around. And it worked.
Like, just to mirror what happened at the end of the movie, you've got characters who are strong and powerful and untouched by physical fault, and they just disappear. And then to sort of parody that almost at the beginning of the movie, you've got Loki, who's a tough motherfucker, and he literally gets choked out and his neck broken to the point that his eyes fill with blood and he's dead.
That is the second most brutal on-screen death in a Marvel thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the one that's worse than that, Kingpin beheading someone with a door.
Oh yeah, that was the first jaw-dropping moment of the Netflix series for me. I was like, oh, we're not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Gotcha.
Yeah, it was crapsolutely buck wild.
Yes.
And then Heimdall just kind of gets stabbed in the heart.
So, just before we get too deep into, like, talking about the plot and stuff like that, Idris Elba was like, man, if I'm going to continue being in the Marvel movies, I want to be in the movies in a big role. And they were like, well, we could kill you. And he was like, kill me! And then they did. So,
one thing that...
he might be coming back.
One thing that worked for plot, but was one thing that even while watching the movie, I was a little bit about... is you mean to tell me that Heimdall had enough time for the Bifrost one more time? Fair enough.
Sure.
And then he chooses to save Hulk over Thor?
Well, I believe that Heimdall would know that Thor would die... Sorry, Thor would not die in the vacuum of space, but Hulk probably could. That's all I've got.
I believe that Heimdall has eyes that can let him see everything, and he knew that Hulk was the person to get out of there.
Oh, did he have he's on the same page as Doctor Strange in some ways then?
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Okay.
I mean, like, the Bifrost Bridge has a lot of power associated therein, so there's a chance that he just, like, kind of knew.
Also, it's possible because of the angle that he was trying to get both of them and he just missed.
Oh, fair enough.
He was bleeding out.
Yeah.
And on the verge of being stabbed in the chest horrendously.
Yes.
By a Titan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like, Thor would never have forgiven him if he had teleported Thor away from his people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair, although he's dying anyway.
Yeah.
But, again, like, Thor can survive in the vacuum of space.
He found out.
But Heimdall would have known that.
Yeah, he
right?
would've.
Like, that's the only thing that rationalized that for me, was that Heimdall would have known that Chris Hemsworth is ripped and hot enough that the vacuum of space is no match for his pectorals.
Yes. Surprise, surprise, it worked.
Where our humble Bruce Banner is sad and frail and needs to go back to Earth.
No, the Hulk is now sad and frail.
The Hulk got beaten so bad that he won't come back out.
A lot to talk about there.
Yeah. Bruce Banner's got some stuff to work through.
Well, just while we're on the Hulk, because of their rights with Universal, this is Marvel's way of giving Hulk an arc. They want to have him a 6-movie progression, but they can't do his own movies, so they're trying to squeak it in the cinematic universe movies.
Yeah, so Ragnarok and Infinity War are their first 2 large attempts at giving him, like, hard arcs, because contractually speaking, they can't give him his own movie, despite the fact that Mark Ruffalo really wants one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think so far they've done, like, a really incredible job of, like, trying to write that character into having, like a notable on-screen sort of thing that you can watch and happen and go from point A to point B. But also it kind of sucks because I just want a Hulk movie so bad.
So bad.
So, small diversion. Based on the trailers for this movie, I was expecting Captain America and Black Panther and Winter Soldier in them to have a much bigger role than they ended up having.
Yeah. So that's actually one thing that I wanted to lay into while we were talking about the movie, because this is very important to me.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch the first trailer, and I'm going to call out Matthew went out of his way to not watch one single trailer for this movie because he did not want to get anything spoiled.
I left theaters.
He literally walked out of our viewing of Thor Ragnarok.
Also Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
To avoid seeing the trailer for this movie, which shows dedication.
Yeah.
Props, by the way.
Thank you. It was very difficult, especially because in the pre-show before this, they kept showing stuff, and I was like, "Oh my!"
Like
goodness.
Minor clips.
What are you doing? What are you doing to me?
And so
He's been pure so long.
the thing with the trailers for this movie is that they showed a lot in that same way that big budget blockbuster movies show a lot. And the problem isn't a problem, because it's actually a solution to the problem of showing too much in a trailer. Because it turns out that approximately 45 to 60% of the scenes that were shown in the original trailer for this movie were just fucking lies.
Or they digitally edited things.
Yeah. But they were abject lies. Like, there was a scene where Thor is doing his big Thor thing, and he just didn't have his eye patch on, because they didn't want to spoil Thor Ragnarok. Thor loses his fucking eye in that movie. Get with the program. Watch the movies.
To be fair, he gets a new one.
Yes, at one point, but not during the scenes that were shown in the trailer.
Yeah. Also, now he has heterochromia.
Which is a cool anime thing, yeah.
It is.
But the whole scene with the Wakandan assault, you've got the Hulk on the left side of the screen moving towards the onslaught.
And I actually super appreciated that as somebody who didn't watch the trailers, because even on YouTube, that's the one thumbnail I couldn't avoid.
Exactly. And then you watch the movie, and Bruce Banner is in the Hulkbuster suit, and he's on the right side of the screen. So not only did they not show you exactly what was happening, they actually lied to you where the thing was going to happen. And if you're gonna show me too much in your trailer, I want you to lie to me, because I want to be surprised when I watch your movie.
But not like lie, just mislead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was so good. They did a very good job.
Yeah, oh yeah. Let's talk favorite parts.
Yeah.
I mean, the favorite scene, favorite character, favorite anything.
Should we bang out some like major narrative things before we talk about the favorite bits, or should we do the favorite bits first?
I think we should do favorite bits. I feel like if someone's like there's no point in rehashing.
Yeah, if you're listening up until this point,
We assume
you've seen the fucking movie, yeah.
Or you don't care to see the movie, and you're just getting like the broad strokes.
Yeah, alright. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite bit. Give me some hot takes.
Ooh. Honestly, the ending was pretty good, even though it was very sad.
Yeah,
Holy
it was very good.
Or, sorry, the
Yeah,
other
go.
scene, it was dark, but it was good, where Thanos sacrifices Gamora for the Soul Stone, and they just brought Red Skull back.
I liked seeing Red Skull.
Yeah.
You know they changed the actor.
Mm-hmm.
They did. They recast Red Skull as some
They're
dude.
not gonna bring Zugo Weaving back just for that.
Well, he's technically contractually obliged to do 6 more movies, but neither he nor he doesn't want to do it. And Marvel's like, "Oh, we're not gonna make you do it."
Make you.
Yeah, but they cast some guy from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, some guy who does a good German accent, I guess.
It was a good German accent.
And also a good impersonation of Hugo Weaving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I granted, I haven't actually watched Captain America: The First Avenger in a hot minute, but it was like good enough as like I didn't really question it.
Also, it was a nostalgic kick for a movie that I feel no nostalgia to. It's like, I saw that happen, and I was like, oh, yeah, that was awesome! And then I thought about it, and I was like, I don't give a shit about Captain America 1. So...
Could you imagine if Thanos just pushed him off the cliff instead?
He's just
I loved you!
I always loved you, Red Skull.
Thanos had the same nostalgia reaction that you did.
Exactly, he was like, I didn't really love your movie, but seeing you was pretty fucking cool. Red Skull's like, no.
Matt, moment you loved.
Honestly, most of this movie was pretty great. I loved all the things about Spider-Man that I loved about Homecoming.
Oof.
Yeah.
Every single Tom Holland scene.
But my favorite moment is actually not a moment that was my favorite in the viewing, or just a whatever moment, but thinking back on it is really good.
Yeah.
And that's right before Thanos takes Gamora. It's that scene where Star-Lord's got the gun.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's like, shoot me. He's like, he agrees to do it, and he finally pulls the trigger.
And it's a tense moment because it doesn't happen all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I liked about that moment was afterwards, I think it was afterwards, I've only seen the movie the one time, Thanos says, "Oh, I like you,"
And then leaves him.
Yeah, but Thanos is all about sacrificing for the greater good. Like, like giving up the stuff like that for whatever is your greater purpose. Mm-hmm. And he understood that Gamora's greater purpose was not to go with Thanos, blah, blah, blah. So I think that was actually what made Thanos like Peter, was that he was willing to shoot Gamora.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because Gamora forced him to promise to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she didn't force him to do anything.
She
said,
pretty...
no, if you love me and you care about the stake of the universe, you have to do this.
Also, just snowballing briefly back to Lucas's moment about the demise of Gamora. Like, I don't know that Gamora is necessarily the most sort of important character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like she's a very important role in the Guardians, and the Guardian movies 1 and 2 are both great.
And she was a very important character in the comics that this is based on.
Exactly.
Oh, very much so.
But it's like, leading up to this movie, I cared about her probably in the same way that I cared about Groot. Where I love the guy, he's a great character. Fuck yeah, I love watching him. But like, it's not like...
It's not investment, really.
Exactly. And then they have this, like, very emotional buildup that I personally think is super dependent on Thanos. Thanos, I'm going to say it right now, was the most important character in this movie.
I would argue he was the protagonist of this movie.
Yeah. He was...
We were watching to see him succeed. So.
He was the most important to watch. He was the most interesting to watch. he had the most character development over the course of the whole narrative. Like, Thanos stole the show, big time. And the scene where his heart broke my heart. Like, it was absolutely buck wild. So I absolutely
like the
agree.
guy's a madman, but
like,
he has some emotion.
You see all of these scenes, these downtime scenes where Thanos is explaining what he's doing, and he's describing himself, and he's letting you see the other side of the character. And that was incredible. He is the best villain Marvel has ever put out. The best sole villain, because people argue in favor of Loki, but I don't think Loki is a villain.
Also, you are talking about the movies, not the Netflix series.
Yes, yeah. Because, yeah, of course.
Netflix series, I mean, I would still argue that Thanos would be in the running, even if you included the Netflix series, but it would be more of a debate for me if you included the Netflix series.
The Purple Man and Wilson Fisk are both
absolutely
hard, yeah.
I have a few different feelings on that. I do think Thanos is arguably the protagonist, but for me, the one with the most character development and the one who really stole the show was Thor.
Oh my god, yeah. Thor was, as far as the hero side of the story, absolutely.
Because after 5 movies of no character development from Thor, we suddenly got character development from Thor. He had an arc from beginning to end.
He made new friends.
He had, and also this ties into favorite bits. My single favorite bit was Thor and Rocket in the pod.
That was very good.
Oh, that was
so good.
That was really good.
Where, just for context, Rocket speaks to Thor about loss and heartbreak and the prospect of further loss. And Thor
says, like, my whole life I've been fated to win these battles. I've always won. That's what the fates demanded. And Rocket just asks him, well, what if you can't this time? And Thor says, well, what else can I lose?
And the biggest tear ever seen in the universe appears in the corner of his eye, and then gets sucked back into his tear duct.
Holy shit! That was some really fine acting in that moment.
Yeah,
and that was the bit that really made the movie for me. And also the bit that made Thor Ragnarok for me in a weird way. And I love Thor Ragnarok.
Good movie. Best Thor movie.
It's not hard to do though.
I don't feel like Thanos is the best villain. I still will firmly believe it's either Vulture or Killmonger.
I mean, yeah, Vulture and Thanos, I think, in my humble opinion, are paired for number one.
Also, I feel like I should specify villain. I mean, antagonist. Maybe villain. Because villain is more of like a force as opposed to someone who's trying to stop the protagonist.
I don't think Killmonger's a villain. I think Killmonger's a powerful.
Killmonger and Vulture are antagonists.
Yeah, exactly.
They have their own agendas. They are not some like malevolent villainous force.
They're not Whiplash.
Thanos is actually, I'm kind of coming back around to it, and I think I agree with you. Best villain.
Yeah, best abject villain.
I didn't really buy the emotional character stuff, and I think that's because of the different writers who have contributed to building him up over the decade. He has a complicated relationship with Gamora. She has a complicated relationship with him. I'm not going to feel anything but discomfort for any relationship that involved pitting someone in fights to the death against their siblings.
The Joaquin Phoenix to your Gladiator. I don't fucking know.
Basically,
yeah.
I like. If you remove everything that actually happened in the first 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I would agree with that prognosis. But the fact that we have Gamora's backstory and Nebula's backstory, I cannot.
Fair.
I like that is a fucked up, abusive, toxic living situation, and I'm not going to shed any tears over it.
Horrendous, disgusting, hard time, yes. What was your scene?
That was the...
Thor and Rocket.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So
all
what's
right.
your scene, Scott?
Oh, good. All right. Mine is very important to me because I put a lot of emotional baggage on it, and it was the scene in which, at the end of the film, Vision begged Scarlet Witch to kill him for the sake of the universe. And Scarlet Witch agreed, and she spent her entire climactic sequence putting to death, literally, basically on firing squad, the love of her life for the sake of the longevity of all existence, only to see him die, and then see Thanos literally bring him back to life half a moment later, where she could literally see the life in his face, only to then see the life ripped out of his body by Thanos, and then be subsequently killed.
And just to roll off that, they tease, like, oh, we might be able to save him. We can extract the Mind Stone without having to kill him in Wakanda.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah,
No.
the most...
That was... Sorry, just to finish my thought, just before you... That was the most emotionally harrowing segment of that film, in my opinion, because there wasn't, like, in Civil War, of course, you get the inkling that we're going to be leading into the Scarlet Witch and Vision romance that is established in the comic books, of course. You get the idea. But in this movie, they really did a good job in a very small span of time of, I think, establishing that, of showing how much the two characters care for each other. I think that they nailed it, of course. And then to see, over the course of approximately, 7 minutes, give or take, the most harrowing and heartbreaking sequence of events to occur subsequently and simultaneously for the one character, only to have her then die? That shit just broke my heart. That was difficult to watch.
She was also the only one to die with a smile on her face.
It's true.
Shut up, Car. We're trying to do a podcast here.
This might be, unpopular counter opinion. I didn't like them in the movie. It didn't work for me. I felt like that was the one thing that needed to have been built up more in other films, or...
I have a different one thing that needs to be built up. I'll take it after.
If they had framed it as this was them, like the third date kind of thing, not they're thinking about running off together right now kind of thing. If this was the beginning of the relationship as opposed to they're pretty deep in, it would have worked for me. And I feel like I would have felt the loss a lot more, because then they're not only losing what they have, they're losing all of the things that they might have had.
But I don't agree with that, because if it was like this third date thing, I don't think that the end of things would have been as significant to either of them. Like, it would have, of course, been the point that they make, but if they weren't already adamant by the fact that they loved each other, that wouldn't have been as significant.
Okay, but I didn't buy that they loved each other.
Well,
because prior to this, they had 2 scenes in Civil War, and that was it.
But I did.
Okay.
So that's why that scene meant a lot to me.
I'm not taking that from you.
You know what was really built up? Vision was a fucking punching bag this whole film.
Yeah, Vision got his shit kicked in 9 times out of 9 times.
Avenger my ass.
Yeah.
I really liked that in the first fight. I was like, Vision should just be phasing out. This is bad writing. And immediately after that fight, they were like, "Why weren't you phasing?" He's like, "I couldn't do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you thought of it. Could work."
They stabbed me with the anti-phase spear. It's
Yeah,
like, all right, thank you for the MacGuffin.
Also, I've heard a lot of people talk about the Vision scene where he dies.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I'm not hearing people talk about, which I just think is interesting.
Mhm.
That scene proves that you can break an Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's baffling in my opinion. They are the things that appeared after the Big Bang.
but that was like 70 to 80% of the movie was them being like, we gotta break the Mind Stone. Yeah, the Mind Stone.
Yeah.
We gotta break the Mind Stone.
That actually has a precedent in the comics as well. There have been numerous times where the stones just break.
But this had not been addressed in the cinematic universe before.
Mhm.
This is the first time that anybody was like, "Can we break them?"
Mhm.
Well,
And it's like Vision shows up and he's like, well, I've been thinking a lot about it, and probably you could blow up my brain. Scarlet Witch is like, quoi? And he's like, well.
Because I was thinking about that for a bit, but then also, when Tony Stark is like, you gotta break the time stone to Doctor Strange doesn't say, I can't. He just says, I won't.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me,
That would have saved Vision's life if they destroyed the Time Stone.
Okay, but
I actually have a bit here. But
yes, but
go on.
Would it really have? Even if he does only get 5 of the 6 stones, he's still 5/6 of his way to being a god.
He just needs to wipe out half the universe manually. Then
It would take slightly longer.
All right, so I've got one thing as far as the whole Doctor Strange, because I had big beef. For those of you who probably have already seen the movie, there's a bit where Tony Stark is about to die at the hands of Thanos. Thanos is about to ram Tony Stark's own knife into Tony Stark's fucking face or whatever. No, he did. He already stabbed him. He's about to beam him with the beam hand. And Doctor Strange says, "Spare his life and I'll give you the stone."
Doctor Strange says, "I want to make a bargain."
I've come to bargain.
This takes place after a scene in which Doctor Strange has been meditating for, we're going to say a period of time. And they say, how many of these versions of the future that you saw do we win in? And he says, just one. And then there's a bit where Doctor Strange almost willingly hands the Time Stone over to Thanos. So what my personal reading of that sequence is that the version in which they win,
Tony Stark has to be alive.
Tony Stark has to be alive. Doctor Strange does not necessarily have to be the wielder of the Time Stone. Because if that were the case, he would have fucking warped himself over to Kalamazoo. He would have just gone out. He would have bailed.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave the stone to ensure that Tony Stark was alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tony Stark needs to be alive in order for them to defeat Thanos.
Tony Stark needs to be alive so he can die in part 2.
Exactly. But that's my reading of it, is that, that Doctor Strange knew for a fact that no matter if he died, no matter if the Time Stone lined up wherever, Tony Stark needed to be a fucking physical presence on this planet we call Earth.
And he couldn't just give the stone up because Thanos would definitely think trap.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, I agree that has to be the case.
Yeah.
Especially because earlier in the film, Doctor Strange outright says to Tony and Peter, "I will not choose you over the stone."
Yeah. It's funny because you said Peter and I thought Peter Quill instead of Peter Parker.
There are 2 Peters.
I know. Yeah.
It's like a Chris's situation.
There's 2 Stevens as well.
Speaking of...
there are 2.
Yeah.
Speaking of Peter Quill, fuck Peter Quill.
In this film?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Oh.
I got a thing for that. Because Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah.
There's a sequence in which Kurt Russell, as Ego, says, "I killed your mother," to Peter Quill. And by the time he's punctuated that sentence, Peter's fucking rocket punched that guy through the surface of the planet.
No, that it's in character.
Oh yeah. But that's the thing. That's the only thing that I've got, is they characterized that exact trait so effectively in the last movie that guy appeared in, that seeing it happen in the last movie, we were all like, yeah! But in this movie, the exact same character trait plays out, and we're all like, what the fuck? Because the context is different. We see the exact same behavior, but it's very upsetting this time.
I just if it had been Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and Iron Man fighting Thanos on Titan, they probably would have succeeded. And the fact that Drax and Mantis and Star-Lord were there is the reason that it didn't work.
I agree. However,
I just want to say, sorry, I retroactively blame Peter Quill for every bad thing that's happened in the Marvel movie. World War II, Peter Quill. War in the Middle East, Peter Quill.
You're right, except Doctor Strange.
Except World War II.
So you're not right about everything in the Marvel universe. You're right about that scene, except Doctor Strange saw all versions of how this is going to go down, and in one of those versions, he teleported the Guardians away, and they took the gauntlet from Thanos.
That doesn't make it less frustrating to watch Peter Quill fuck up.
No, absolutely, but it's all part of the grander plan.
Yeah, fuck you, wizard.
The scene that didn't work for me as far as stuff they should have established earlier, they just kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah.
Was the stuff with Gamora and Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, honestly, I actually thought the kid that they cast as young Gamora worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
That bit was fine.
But it was just like, that whole bit with her knife would have been a thing if she had to go somewhere and like pull out the knife. The fact that it like establishes the knife in that flashback, and then all of a sudden they cut to it and she's just holding the knife, which all of a sudden has some symbolic value to her. We hadn't seen that before.
Like if 2 movies ago Gamora had like presented that knife potentially,
exactly.
yeah,
and that had been part of her kit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that everything needs to always be
Foreshadowed.
Yeah, but it just kind of there was this
the Chekhov's knife.
There was just this kind of understanding that, oh yes, of course she's always had this. Where me as an audience member, somebody who has seen all the films, was like, no, this is the first I'm hearing of this. Why is that?
Yeah, totally. And like the sequence within which Lucas referenced, of course, again, Gamora eats the
pavement,
the 10-mile pavement. It's like, I didn't give a shit that Gamora died because this relationship meant nothing to me, but I gave a shit that Josh Brolin did a really good performance as Thanos. Like, I believed that it meant something to him. I didn't believe that it meant something, but I believed that that actor did a really good job of performing that piece.
It just, speaking of that scene, Gamora in reality would have been paint being dropped that far.
Yeah, she would have been.
And 2, they should have added the goofy scream when she fell.
It would have looked like Christmas when she hit the pavement.
She's also one of only like 3 or 4 characters that probably isn't coming back.
Yeah, we got... Hold on. Right now, characters that aren't coming back. Loki, Gamora, Vision.
I have a theory on Vision. And it's... I just think that Shuri?
Siri?
Shuri.
Siri?
Hey Siri.
Black Panther's
Oh,
sister. Shuri, yeah.
Yeah.
She, while she was working on Vision's brain, I just think she downloaded a copy and let's put it back into his body.
Saved a backup of Jarvis.
Yeah, save a backup of Jarvis, throw an arc reactor in his forehead, problem solved.
Boom. Yeah. I would like to see that happen.
No, but definitely Gamora, definitely Loki, although I've seen fan
definitely
theories online.
Heimdall.
No,
Definitely Heimdall,
Yeah.
for sure.
no, Gamora, I'm almost certain Gamora's coming back.
You think
Definitely Ned.
so?
Yes.
I've got a theory for this.
Okay.
We're gonna go into like speculation now.
Might as well.
Thanos didn't kill those people. He pulled them into the Soul Stone.
Oh, yeah.
That moment when Thor has just like hit Thanos in the chest with his hammer, and Thanos says, "You should hit me in the head," and then everything flashes when he does the Spider-Man thing with his gauntlet. And then he goes to that all-orange place with the little shrine and the water, and little baby Gamora is there.
The Lovecraftian hell place.
In the Soul Stone?
He was in the Soul Stone. She is in the Soul Stone because she was the first soul that was sacrificed so he could get the Soul Stone, and everyone else is going to be in the Soul Stone, and they're going to get them back by getting the Soul Stone, and I'm doing it.
Also, just like snowballing off of that whole end sequence, the scene where Thanos sits down on the steps.
Like the very end?
Yeah, the last scene. That is a blow-for-blown, scene-for-scene recreation of the comic book.
Infinity Gauntlet.
In Infinity Gauntlet, exactly, where Thanos literally did exactly what he did, where he snapped his fingers, and he killed them all, and then he sits down, and he's agrarian Thanos, and he's looking over his field of crop, I guess.
The yield is good this year.
So that's the interesting bit, because the scene is the same, the context is radically different, because Thanos is a different character in the movie than he was in the comics.
There was no courting of death.
There was no courting of death in the movie. In the comics, he was trying to court death and just basically become the most powerful thing there is.
He loved that sexy Grim Reaper.
Yeah, that skeleton boob Grim Reaper.
Her boobs were made out of bones.
So, for anyone who was listening and has not read Infinity Gauntlet, it has a completely different story than the movie. The movie is actually based on the sequel to the Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, much more closely. Took the title from that.
What? The Infinity War is based off of the Infinity War?
I misspoke.
Yeah.
It is actually...
It's based on the first one, which is the Infinity Gauntlet.
It's based on the Gauntlet, but it took the title from Infinity War because that sounds more exciting.
Also, because the movie before it was the Civil War. We've got sort of a narrative theming as far as our titles are concerned with that.
And the next one is Beyond War, because it's to infinity and beyond.
Thank you, Buzz Lightyear.
Hey.
It could work. There's Disney.
So,
Emperor Zurg shows up.
In the comics, Thanos wins, full stop. All of Earth's heroes get wiped out pretty much off panel. Like, Adam Warlock and Silver Surfer are floating at the far end of space, waiting for Silver Surfer to have a chance to try to swipe the Infinity Gauntlet off of him. Because the Surfer thinks the plan is Earth's heroes are going to distract him and then you're going to move. And Adam Warlock is like, actually, they're all already dead.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Thanos snaps his fingers and then we have 2 pages of black panels, correct?
A lot of that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
He ends up fighting, like, the all-powerful cosmic entities from the comics. Lord Order and Lord Chaos, Infinity, Eternity.
And Lord Farquaad.
Lord Nearquad.
Is the
Janir, Jafar.
Is the Tribunal
Jafar,
there?
wherever you are.
I was going to say, the Living Tribunal, and that's the thing. Thanos wins. And he only ultimately ends up losing when someone who he forgot to even think about manages to just steal the gauntlet from him, and that's what gives...
Thanos is the Kratos of the Marvel Universe.
Someone convinces him to turn back time and to before he wiped out literally everything, etc., etc. But it does end with the disgraced Thanos ultimately losing, and he goes and lives on this agrarian planet, and he gets a farm, and it ends with him looking off over his field.
Sitting on a couple of steps and looking over his field with a smile.
Contemplating his newfound humility.
Yeah.
He was contemplating his failure and trying to grow from that, which was actually directly related to the plot of the direct sequel, which came out the year after that. And if anybody wants to get a really in-depth blow-by-blow of this, check out Linkara's retrospective on these comics. They're very well done and very thorough. Or just check out the comic. This Thanos we have in the movie is explicitly not that Thanos.
No.
This Thanos is a purple Republican.
So Grimace is on a killing spree.
This Thanos has an explicit solution to the problem of scarcity in the universe, and that is wipe out half the people so that there is more to go around. He is doing this because he sees himself as some sort of savior figure, as opposed to someone who is just trying to become the most powerful. And I feel like that change was good for the movie. I don't know if I like this Thanos better, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think this version works well for what they need in the movie. However, the comic book Thanos is far more complicated than the MCU Thanos that we got.
But part of that, again, could be that this Thanos feels like he was kind of developed in just this movie, and they had a different idea of what he was going to be in prior movies when he wasn't so much on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if they shoehorned Death in part 2?
Oh my god.
Oh, we might get those skeletitties.
I still think if they were going to do Death, the way they should have done it was make it Hela.
Well,
fair point.
A little late there.
But I also think that with this whole years passing and Fox whole membership deal going through, and the fact that we've got Deadpool 2 coming out, Deadpool 2 came out, I guess, I don't know, fuck it, and you've got Ryan Reynolds making jokes at the expense of Cable, played by Josh Brolin, who is also Thanos, calling him Thanos, making fat jokes at his entire expense, and then the fact that Deadpool is the person that Death was attracted to when Thanos was trying to make hot passes at Death. You've got this whole interconnected web of cinema now, and if come a couple of years from now we get some wicked funny funnies because the brands meet, that's awesome.
I hope so. I hope dearly.
Yeah.
Even if they reboot the rest of the X-Men, they need to keep Ryan Reynolds Deadpool.
Exactly. And especially Ryan Reynolds Deadpool, who knows Josh Brolin as Cable and Josh Brolin as Thanos.
Yeah,
because
luckily Deadpool is Deadpool, and that'd be easy to do.
Exactly.
Well, they could reasonably do that, because the only X-Men we've had, both in the other X-Men movies and Deadpool, is Colossus, and they have a different actor playing him in the Deadpool movies.
Yeah.
They've got Zangief playing him in the current Deadpool movies.
As opposed to Daniel Cudmore in the
I
old
think,
movies.
yeah, that guy, whatever.
The very un-Russian guy.
Who didn't speak.
Yeah, 2 lines.
2 whole lines over the course of 3 movies.
Yeah, that's an accurate thing.
Yeah.
Alright, so is it time to move into the death count? Well, this survivor list, whatever's easier.
Survivor list is
Well, it's a half and half.
No,
So.
let's take
It's half and half. Which half do you want to go over?
top 10 animated portrayals, Lucas. Let's go around the table and say somebody that we remembered who died.
Spider-Man.
Bucky, Spider-Man,
Guess I'll hold on to that one. Groot.
Falcon.
Which is funny, because the only person in the movie who remembered Falcon was War Machine.
Which was
Yeah.
upsetting. He was like,
Aw.
"Hey Sam, where are you at?" And it's like, "You guys were enemies last movie. Why, God,
Well, they're both...
don't make me feel feels."
No, they're friends now.
Tony.
Yeah, no, Bucky. That he was the first to go. That was the one that got me, other than Peter.
But Bucky got set already.
He wants to keep going around.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Black Panther.
You
T'Challa's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the surprising one to me.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of Wakanda.
Yeah.
No, most of Wakanda's fine.
half.
Yeah,
Half of Wakanda.
exactly. But Scarlet Witch.
No,
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch survived.
No.
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
She's with Vision right now.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking Black Widow. That was my bad. I was thinking Black Widow. That was a 100% Scott bad.
Black Widow is fine.
Yeah, she's fine.
Somebody else who died. Nick Fury.
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord, yeah.
Greatest villain in the world.
Star-Lord, yeah.
Drax.
Mantis.
Maria Hill.
Okay, wait, hold on.
We're getting to the end of
I got another one. Hold on. Wait, hold on. I got another one. Hold on. Shit. We did Bucky. We did Falcon. We did Scarlet Witch.
You're missing somebody big if that's helpful.
I got the one you're thinking of.
No, I'm not thinking of anybody. That's the
No,
problem.
give me the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
I'd like to make a deal.
Also Groot.
I said Groot, unfortunately.
Oh crap. Well, I'm not going to do Doctor Strange now. You gave that to me. Hold on. Maria Hill, Samuel L. Jackson, already got done. I'm going to guess Thaddeus Ross. That's just a crapshoot, though.
Wong, maybe.
No, Wong is confirmed alive.
Confirmed alive?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Wong and M'Baku, they're my new heroes.
Yeah, new Avengers.
Good.
I would pay to see a movie just Wong.
Wong, M'Baku, and, like, one of the characters from The Runaways.
Oh, what was the name of the guy who Deadpool adds to his team in the trailer?
Peter!
Hey, we have a third Peter.
Yeah, we got 3 Peters in this goddamn cinematic.
Shatterstar.
Oh, yeah.
Who the fuck? Anyways.
Shatterstar is one of the first openly gay comic book characters.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yes.
But also, let's circle back and just do people who are still alive.
We did them.
No, who are still alive.
Oh,
Captain America, Thor, Iron Man,
Black Widow.
Black Widow,
War Machine.
War Machine,
Rocket.
Rocket Raccoon.
Nebula, if you count that.
Yeah.
that,
Peter Dinklage.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mm-hmm. Itiri the dwarf, yeah.
Peter Dinklage phoned in that performance.
Yeah, he was paid a lot of money to just show up.
Yep.
That was not great.
I mean, I'm not a professional actor. I don't know the difficulties in actor faces, but I saw Peter Dinklage and I was ready for a performance, and I agree, it was a little.
What are the difficulties in making somebody that small appear that large?
The key is to shrink everybody else.
Ooh.
That's what they did in the Lord of the Rings. They
True.
shrunk everybody else.
Wow.
Dana Guerrera, I can't remember her character name.
Yeah.
One of the Dora Milaje.
Yeah. The head of the Dora Milaje.
Yeah. She's fine. She's good.
Yeah.
M'Baku, like we said.
M'Baku. Hard 10.
You said Cap already.
Tony Stark.
I said him too.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I hit the big 3.
Also, none of us said Spider-Man people who didn't make it.
No, he did.
No, he did.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Also,
In the same breath that I said Bucky, he said...
Oh, right, you're right.
We never even talked about the whole restarting the star montage.
Oh my god.
That was so goofy.
That was just a baller ass scene.
That was great.
I'm just gonna
So
take
good.
the heat of a dying star.
And have my new weapon, which is Beta Ray Bill's fucking hammered axe, be made out of Groot's arm.
Which
Yeah.
means that handle shouldn't
Is it-
exist anymore. But
Is it called the Titan Killer, or what was it called again?
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker.
Hell yeah.
Also, that scene was, in my opinion, was there to just justify their mistake of putting in 2 Infinity Gauntlets.
Yeah, which, I mean...
Because there was one in Asgard, and then suddenly you see Thanos reaching for another one in an post-credit scene a few movies later.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
So now they were just like, oh, he made one at a God Forge or something.
Also, one big thing, first scene when Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Wong, and Bruce Banner are walking down the streets of New York as chaos is happening.
That was
And
a good scene.
it's a good scene,
Oh,
right?
I
Yeah,
love
very
that scene.
dynamically shot. You've got, like, sort of first-is person camera where they're, like, following and, like, things are kind of shaking around.
It reminded me of Spielberg's War of the Worlds.
A little bit, yes.
I can see
But
that.
there is a person who runs past Tony Stark wearing a Punisher t-shirt.
Eh.
Boom!
Oh, great.
Confirmed, cinematic universe Punisher. Boom, boom, boom.
Punisher wouldn't run away.
No, there was a person wearing a shirt, though. So there's fans of the Punisher, which means the Punisher is real.
Or it could have just been Matt McMuscles.
True.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it happened. And I saw that happen, and I was like, oh, I'm here, we're done.
Yeah, so how many of the Defenders do you guys think are alive? Do you think this
At least
is,
half of them.
Half of them, yeah.
Do you think this is really going to throw a wrench in Cage Season 2?
You know what?
Not for a second.
I think it's going to be Iron Fist and Jessica Jones, and everybody's going to be like,
And then Jessica's just going to be upset.
super mad
Just
about it, yeah.
drinking all day.
Well, I mean, she already kind of does.
Yeah.
Drinking kind of 2 because it's just Iron Fist left.
Yep.
They didn't even get to keep the good one.
Yeah, I honestly don't think this will come up in the Netflix series.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
they've got more couth than to...
I feel like the Netflix series is going to take like a time skip and then just pick up after the events.
Yeah.
The same way that back when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was worth watching, they did that between Thor Dark World, where it was like, took a season off, Thor Dark World happens, pick up a season, and they're cleaning up
yeah.
after.
I think after the events of Avengers Infinity War 2, they're going to pick up and it's like, oh, that sure was a weird thing that happened where everyone died and came back.
Ain't it crazy how the Inhumans half disappeared, but half were still here?
Or else there's going to be like a time, like a soft time reset, and they're just going to like, boom, it never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how they play it in the movies.
Yeah. But I feel confident in calling the shot of no, they're gonna pull people out of the Soul Stone.
Honestly, that does make sense.
Yeah, that'd be a good play, I think.
This film was kind of action sequence after action sequence, but despite that, they still were just like had a lot of good minor moments. They managed to capture everything about Homecoming that I loved.
Yeah.
In the small bits of interaction we had with Tony Stark and Peter Parker.
Hey Ned, make a distraction.
Oh my god, there's a spaceship, we're gonna die! And
So
also,
good.
as much as I said earlier on in the review that the whole Vision and Scarlet Witch thing was like very, very important to me, very hard to watch, and very sort of significant. The bit where Peter Parker realized he was dying because of his spider sense, and he turned to Tony Stark and he said, I don't want to die, and he was crying. That was the worst part of this movie, because that was one of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah, it was hard to watch.
That was like, I feel like that was the bit that got everybody, and then other than that, it was like the individual specific characters who got some of the people.
Exactly.
Like, I know Bucky got me, Bucky wasn't gonna get everybody.
And the thing with Bucky was like the one character that I think got the least fanfare.
Yeah.
Where he like turns to Cap and he's like, like he doesn't even get like he gets half a word out, and then he just hits the fucking deck and disappears. And it was like other character, some people got to say goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, also that scene with Spider-Man was tough because in Homecoming, Tony stops Spider-Man when he thinks he's not ready because he's like, if something happened to you, that would be on me.
Yeah.
And of course, Tony now has to live with it.
Yeah.
He died on him.
Only for one more movie.
Presumably.
Heyo.
Wouldn't it be crazy? Wouldn't it be crazy if they don't bring people back?
Alright, so Are we all feeling pretty good about the review?
Wait. After credits.
Oh, if you're talking after
Captain
credits.
Marvel, yeah. I'm really excited for the Two Towers of this fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
The sequel to this movie being The Two Towers, being the 1990s film featuring Captain Marvel that will lead into...
I'm just glad Nick Fury had his pager on him.
That
No
just looks
kidding.
very bewildered for people who can't see faces.
Yeah. We said The Two Towers, specifically because that's the sequel to The Fellowship of the Ring, for those of you paying attention.
Before we move on, is Adam Warlock going to be in Avengers 4?
Adam Warlock got confirmed at the end of Guardians 2.
To come back, but for the Avengers 4?
That's the theory.
Yeah.
Probably yes.
Yeah. Because we would need some sort of cosmic force to assist with the ongoing
He was
plot.
also, like, in the comics, he was always instrumental in bringing about Thanos' downfall, so it's entirely probable that he's going to be in part 2.
But the two core figures we've got is Adam Warlock getting established at the end of Guardians 2, leading into him being core character for the ongoing cinematic universe, and Captain Marvel being established at the end of this movie, leading into Captain Marvel getting her origin story set in the 1990s.
Leading into
the sequel.
When she hopefully... Oh boy, wouldn't it be a bummer if she also got dusted?
That'd be really funny.
Waste of a
Could you
pager.
imagine? Waste of a fucking pager.
So she must wormhole or coma or something.
Well, the thing that I heard, and this is just me, of course, but the theory that I heard was that because there was this ongoing intergalactic political constituency, the Krees and our war, and Captain Marvel being a cosmic entity, she was busy out where in the galaxy while things were happening on Earth. And it's like there was no reason for her to return to Earth because she was dealing with much larger scale, much more important issues.
Yeah, that's not what I mean when I say she must be wormholed or coma or something.
I know what you're saying.
Because she'll be Brie Larson in her movie that's set in the 1970s, and then do we just take a 50-year jump and now she's here?
She's Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel doesn't have...
she's Captain Marvel!
Okay, but this is actually potentially a thing, because Captain Marvel's power, at least in the comics, is to absorb and redirect energy, and she can do that with all forms of energy. There was a point where in Mighty Avengers, once she had a nuclear bomb go off in her face, and then 3 pages later she came back and clocked the sentry. So, it's entirely possible that I
assume that's binary at that point?
Basically binary at that point. So it's entirely possible that if she got enough juice, she could open up a wormhole and come from the 1990s to the present, and that's why Nick Fury had a fucking pager on him.
Also, that's why she bathed in the blood of the virgins.
Yeah, like Mary Bathory.
You two have clearly read more comics than I've read.
It's just a true thing.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, actually, that was something I was also wondering about. Is she going to time travel? Because that's the only way that Nick Fury could... Granted, Nick Fury doesn't know what's going on, but that's the only way we could really be certain in-universe that she didn't get dusted to.
Time travel,
Yeah, for sure. Alright, y'all. We did, I think, a pretty good review there. How you feel?
Pretty good.
Good review?
Yeah,
good review?
Feeling good.
Good review? Yeah? Like it? Alright, cool. So I would like, now, in keeping with taking credit for lore, each of us to rate the film on an arbitrary rating scale that we've just made up just now. Lucas, I would like you to start.
I'm going to give this 14.6 million possible timelines out of the one person watching this, or listening to this,
Fuck yeah.
per se.
Tony?
I'm going to give this half off out of 10.
Ayo.
Hey. I am going to give this one a decade out of one cinematic timeline.
6 of the 6 time stones would watch again.